How do I identify somebody who's serious about buying from somebody who's a wishy-washy buyer? I'm Scott Sylvan Bell. It's August 7th, 2017, 9:18 here in the morning in Las Vegas, Nevada. Perfect day to talk about sales. You know, and there's a lot of different variations that salespeople ask this question. How do I identify a good buyer versus a bad buyer? How do I identify somebody who's wishy-washy versus somebody who really wants to make a deal? Now, there's something that happens in the mind of salespeople over time if they've dealt with a lot of rejection or they're under stress to make a deal. They're constantly trying to look for the fast close. And in this process, salespeople start taking steps out and they stop doing what they're supposed to do and they try to shoot for the close too quick. And, you know, here's the thing. Everybody's got their own different agenda when they're buying. They've got their own different process. And, you know, just because you buy a certain way or you think you want to buy a certain way doesn't mean that's how everybody else buys. So you need to understand this concept of you sell how you buy. And if you're under a lot of pressure to make a deal, if you're under a lot of pressure to close a sale, then you're going to start looking for shortcuts and easier ways to make the deal. And a lot of times this comes down to your fault. And it's the tough truth. And a lot of salespeople don't want to hear this. Sometimes, actually most of the time, I'm going to say most of the time, it is your fault as a salesperson for not doing your job that the sales didn't close. And, you know, people will say, well, it wasn't fair. This happened, or they had a lot of questions. Look, not everybody buys the same exact way. Not everybody's a dream buyer where they walk in and they're like, you know what, I'll take that one. I'll pay full price plus extra, and I'm going to give you a tip. Right? That might happen like one time in your lifetime, and salespeople look for that dream unicorn buyer, and it just doesn't happen. So you got to know, if you want to really separate out a buyer who's going to be buying from you and not, you're going to have to, this is going to take some effort. We're going to have to have a marketing conversation, right? You're going to have your demographics down, but even then, it's not going to mean that you're going to know when somebody's going to be serious about buying or not. There's people who just kind of like want to stick their toes in the water and check things out. Now, I remember about 6 months ago, I was buying a car, and I test drove all sorts of different cars. I've got a back injury. And, you know, I was worried about, like, is this seat going to be comfortable? And there was people trying to close me on deals in cars that I wasn't comfortable sitting in. I'm like, look, I'm going to put 60,000 miles on this car and then I'm going to sell it. I don't want to have to worry about my back. And it was one of my buying criteria. So I'm giving you this tip, this sales advice, this sales strategy. Get the person's buying criteria down. Figure out what it's going to take. You can ask them. So, you know, the last time that you bought something like this, how did you make the decision? Or, you know, what specific things are you looking for? What are you not looking for? What do you like about the one that you have versus the one that you're looking for? Right? It's going to come down to you taking some time and asking questions. If you really want to know the difference between somebody who's serious about buying and somebody who's wish-washy, you're going to have to take some time with them. You're going to have to work with them, and you're going to have to ask them some questions. But you also have to know that sometimes that person isn't going to buy anything. And it doesn't mean you're a bad salesperson. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be in sales unless you didn't do your job. The way that you narrow down your buyers and not narrow down your buyers is figuring out if you can help them and if you have what's going to service. Like when I went to buy my car, these guys, they're like, you got to get this now. They give me false scarcity. This is the last one. I'm like, I don't care. It's not a comfortable car for me. It's an awesome looking car. It's got all sorts of horsepower and all that. I could give you like all the features and the benefits, but it's not comfortable for me. So sometimes it comes down to your product is not a fit for the buyer, but the only way that you're going to be able to narrow down your buyer from somebody who's wishy-washy and not ever going to make the sale is ask really good questions. And then if they don't buy from you, there's no reason to get all hurt about it and, you know, go and complain and like, hey, you know what, this guy didn't buy from me. You've spent a bunch of time. That's part of what we do as a salesperson. There's no second place in sales. There's no participation trophy in sales. You just got to know that. All right. So there you go. Now, if you could do a small favor for me in the box down below, leave a comment, question, or story. That would be fantastic. To the right, to the left, there is a subscribe button. You know what you got to do. You got to subscribe. And then last of all, you can send it out to all your friends via StumbleUpon, Facebook, Twitter, Google+. Why not? Even LinkedIn. Scott Sylvan Bell. We'll see you soon. Thanks for watching. Aloha.